my fellow Americans, it has been the honor of my life to serve you. I won't stop. In fact, I will be right there with you as a citizen for all my remaining days.
Welcome back to The World Over. You heard President Barack Obama there. That was part of his emotional farewell to the nation from his hometown in Chicago earlier this week. How will history judge his 8 years in office? And given the divisive political environment in D.C., how can Democrats and Republicans put aside rancor and work for the people? Here to discuss, we're joined by the former U.S. ambassador to the Holy See under President Clinton, as well as former mayor of Boston, Ray Flynn. Great to see you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Ambassador.
Raymond, it's great to be on your program. Thank you.
You heard President Obama at the top. It almost seems as if his goodbye was laced with a little bit of a threat that, hey, I'm leaving, but I'm still going to be around. I'm going to be watching things. Not since Woodrow Wilson have we had a president leave office and stay in D.C. Is he staying? Is he leaving? And what's the message here?
I think it's very important that the incoming president reflect the will of the voters of the United States, Donald Trump, and give him an opportunity in the new Congress to move the country in a new direction. You can argue what kind of president Barack Obama was, but there's one thing you can't argue about. This country is polarized, it's divided, not just politically, racially, ethnically, economically. This country is in trouble, and we need a uniter in chief more than we need a politician.
Now, President Obama, he's also apparently going to be continuing his organization, Organizing for Action, which is to vet and recruit talent for the Democratic Party. He's really the kingmaker in town. Is that a problem for the new president? Should he have cleared out?
Yeah, I think so. I really think so. I think we have to give Donald Trump the opportunity and his team of talented people coming in, many of whom from the public sector, as opposed to professional politicians, to see what kind of job they can do in running our country. I think the people vote for change, and that change ought to be reflected, and let the president deal with the new issues rather than looking over his shoulder about what's the previous president has to say.
Well, part of it is because Sasha Malia, the president's daughter, is still in school. It's her last year, I guess, so they didn't want to rip her out of school, and that can be understood. But the promise of political engagement could end up being a real challenge for President Trump and his team. Obama also issued a warning to those who seek to repeal and replace Obamacare. Listen to this.
Anyone can put together a plan that is demonstrably better than the improvements we've made to our healthcare system that covers as many people at less cost. I will publicly support it. Because that, after all, is why we serve. Not to score points or take credit, but to make people's lives better.
What do you make of this, Ray Flynn? Premiums are through the roof. Some actuarials are saying the Obamacare is in a death spiral. I mean, does he have a lot of room to critique here is the question.
Well, I'll tell you what, Raymond, I never served under a Democratic president, except for the last 3 months. I always served under a Republican president. And I developed the idea that you work together, whoever is the president in power in the White House. I'm a Democrat. I worked with President Reagan. And Boston received more money for public works projects to build a new hospital, the central artery, public infrastructure projects. That's what we need. We need somebody who's going to find common ground to put people to work on jobs. Never mind trying to find issues that are going to divide the country. Let's find issues that have common ground, like Ronald Reagan did, and bring people together. It's kind of ironic, isn't it, that here we have a country politically divided like it's never been before, probably since the Civil War, and yet at the same time, we have a man coming in for the presidency that people didn't elect him to unite the country, but that's the number one issue.
Interesting. Well, President Obama was certainly, in my estimation, selected all those years ago in 2008 and probably in 2012 as well to unite the country, particularly on the issue of race. Here's what he said about race in his farewell address.
Race remains a potent and often divisive force in our society. Now, I've lived long enough to know that race relations are better than they were 10 or 20 or 30 years ago, no matter what some folks say. You can see it not just in statistics, you see it in the attitudes of young Americans across the political spectrum. But we're not where we need to be. And all of us have more work to do.
Was he a racial healer in your estimation, Ray Flynn?
The number one issue in the country and number one issue for any jurisdiction, a city or state, is the most important social program is a job. If you put people to work, all these issues of divisiveness and division and polarization all dissipate because of the fact that a family has their breadwinner with has respect, bringing home the bacon, paying the bills, getting the respect in the community, in his home, his family. That's what the President of the United States ought to be focusing on, putting people to work. The most important social program in America today, and particularly now, is putting people to work, a job. J-O-B, a job.
What do you think will be the president's legacy, Ray Flynn, as you look back? President Obama's legacy.
Well, I think there were high hopes. There were great expectations. I think we moved forward from a standpoint of race. For those of us who are committed to social and economic justice, our Catholic values, our principles that we didn't learn from some university. We learned at our church, in our school, in our homes, in our neighborhoods. I certainly did. And I think that we have a long way to go, as President Obama said. I think he sincerely tried to deal with that, but I don't think he had the right people around him who knew how to get it done. He needed some old school guys, ladies, that knew how to get the job done and could deliver on the promises that he made as a candidate. I just hope that Donald Trump brings into the White House, into his administration, old school politicians who can get the job done, put people to work, show people respect, and treat the families with dignity.
I have to say, looking back, as I look back at these last 8 years, and I had a front row seat on a lot of it, President Obama will surely be remembered for his health care initiative. Sadly, that health care initiative is going to be dismantled within a few months. It was roundly rejected by the American people because, as you said, it didn't add up. Their premiums were going through the roof, and their pocketbooks were being stressed here. And they weren't getting the care or the doctors they were accustomed to, which was promised when it was sold to them initially. But the other part of, I think, his legacy will be one of eloquence. There are few people, aside from Ronald Reagan, that had the eloquence that President Obama, I think, had in his oratory and his rhetoric, and his family. His family was a beautiful, intact family, and, you know, an example, I think, not only to Americans, but to the world. Anything to add to that legacy?
I think you're absolutely right. I saw the tribute to Joe Biden, who I know very, very well, and he's another good man, Joe Biden. So we did have that family, that proud family, serving us in the White House. And, you know, I'm pleased about that. I just hope that we can move forward with a new president who is going to focus on those issues that are important to families in America and not get sidelined on these social issues that divide people. It's time to bring America together.
Yeah, and we should say, you mentioned social issues. The other thing that will probably be remembered is President Obama's support that HHS mandate, his support of Planned Parenthood and abortion on demand, which became, again, very divisive, split the faith community and a lot of Catholic institutions. That will be part of his legacy, sadly, as well. Let's move on. I want to talk about Steve McDonald before we run out of time. This was a New York cop. He was shot 3 times in 1986 in Central Park. A 15-year-old shot him. You knew Steve McDonald. He died this week. Your remembrance of him, your thoughts of him.
I knew Steve McDonald very well. I loved him. We traveled together. We worked for Peace and Justice in Northern Ireland. We went to Medjugorje to pray to Our Lady. We were involved in the social issues. But the thing about Steve McDonald, Raymond, that I will never forget about any person that I have ever met, his sense of forgiveness and his sense of love for a person who tried to kill him. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Forgiving the person who tried to kill you. And by doing that, he set an example that long after we're gone, long after Steve McDonald is gone, people are going to remember him for what he represented. He represented, like Christ did, he represented mercy and forgiveness. Hey, you can't get any better than that.
Mayor Ray Flynn, thanks for the time, thanks for the remembrance, and we'll see you in this new administration. Hopefully we'll see you again on the show.
God bless. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you.